Woke mind virus is when you stop caring about people's skills and their integrity, and you start focusing instead on gender and race and other things that are different from that. I think the woke mind virus is fundamentally racist, fundamentally sexist, and fundamentally evil.
Okay.
And we've got a little bit more time, so you choose your question.
Okay, so
Elon Musk, CEO of Tesla, SpaceX, co-founder of PayPal, and CTO of X, apparently has a lot to say about the concept of wokeness, as he calls it a mind virus that is racist, sexist, and evil.
Yeah. Okay, so I see. So that's
so I was tricked into doing this, and it wasn't explained to me that puberty blockers are actually just sterilization drugs. Anyway, and so I lost my son essentially. They call it dead naming for a reason.
Yeah.
All right. So the reason it's called dead naming is because your son is dead. So my son Xavier is dead, killed by the woke mind virus.
Perhaps it all started when his son Xavier Musk turned transgender. At that point, Elon swore to end wokeness. In his heart, his son was not just dead named, but had been lost to the woke mind virus.
The reality is that almost every child goes through some kind of identity crisis.
It's part of puberty.
Exactly. It's just part of growing up. It's very possible for adults to manipulate children who are having a natural identity crisis into believing that they are the wrong gender.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that they need to be the other gender, or they need to be a boy, or boy needs to be a girl, and that
will solve all their problems.
And that will solve their problems, and then they give them sterilizing drugs, which are called also a misnomer, puberty blocker. These are sterilization drugs, so they can never have children again.
Yeah.
They can have double mastectomies, the mutilation.
They have their forearms stripped to build non-functioning penises.
Yeah, it's macabre. We have an age of consent for a reason.
Tearing down your body just to create a new identity is crazy. If you have no choice but to use certain drugs to prevent the hormones your body naturally produces, isn't that a form of self-abuse?
We have an age of consent for a reason. That the reason you can't get, say, tattoos below age 18, or drink or drive. There are ages at which you can do things, because if we allow children to take permanent actions when they're 10, 12, 14 years old, they will do things that they subsequently greatly regret.
Beats me. If young people aren't allowed to drink, drive, or get tattoos below the age of 18, why should they be allowed to access something as life-altering as puberty blockers?
The amount of indoctrination that's happening in schools and universities is, I think, far beyond what parents realize. And I sort of came to realize this somewhat late. The experience that we had in high school and college is not the experience that kids today are having, and hasn't been for 10 years, maybe 20 years.
Aren't parents themselves also a big part of the problem?
I suppose in some cases, but I think the parents are just generally not aware of what their kids are being taught, or what they're not being taught. Let me give you an example that a friend of mine told me, which his daughters go to college go to high school in the Bay Area, and he was asking them, like, well, so who are the first few presidents of the United States? They could name Washington, and I said, well, what do you know about him? Well, he was a slave owner. What else?
Right. Exactly.
Nothing.
Right.
Like, okay, maybe you should know more than that.
Yeah. That is the woke mind virus. Exactly. Yeah.
Should students be taught to focus on the negative side of history alone while neglecting the whole truth about history? Indoctrination is the only explanation as to why many young people claim to be wokies.
to summarize maybe the woke mind virus, it consists of creating very, very divisive identity politics. So it actually amplifies, woke mind virus, in my view, amplifies racism, amplifies, frankly, sexism, and all the isms. And while claiming to do the opposite, it actually divides people and makes them sort of hate each other, and it makes people hate themselves.
Woke ideologies are like cancer. On the surface, they appear to be cool, but then cause deeper negative effects than people realize.
Over the past year or so, since purchasing X, you've become more political. Is there a part of you that regrets that?
Have I?
In this battle to sort of counterweigh the woke that comes from
Yeah, I guess
San
if you
Francisco.
consider fighting the woke mind virus, which I consider to be a civilizational threat, to be political, then yes.
Elon calls the woke mind virus a threat to civilization. Do I agree? Heck yeah.
Okay, so I see. So that's
So I was
personal connection.
tricked into doing this, and it wasn't explained to me that puberty blockers are actually just sterilization drugs. Anyway, and so I lost my son essentially. They call it dead naming for a reason.
Yeah,
All right. So the reason it's called dead naming is because your son is dead. So my son Xavier is dead, killed by the woke mind virus.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what that would be like.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and there's lots of people in that situation now.
Right.
It's not pretty, and lots of demolished kids.
Yes.
Yeah, well,
So-
that's a good reason to be the final straw. All right, so let's.
So I vowed to destroy the woke mind virus after that.
I'd be pissed if I was manipulated into losing my child as well. Puberty blockers have never been a good idea. Kids should remain kids, and they shouldn't be allowed to block their hormones because of how they feel at the moment.
I'm generally against things that are anti-meritocratic or where there's an attempt to suppress discussion, where even discussing a topic is, not allowed. The woke mind virus is communism rebranded.
Yup, where is the lie? Anything that seeks to control the opinions of people or their rights to discuss certain issues openly is communism rebranded.
Well, it's certainly a recipe for trouble, I suppose, or contention.
What was it ultimately that led you to make the decision to do it?
I mean, this is going to sound somewhat melodramatic, but I was worried about that it was having a corrosive effect on civilization. That it was just having a bad impact. I think part of it is that it's where it was located, which is downtown San Francisco.
Elon calls wokeness a threat to humanity, and I agree because a lot of people with woke ideologies tend to believe that their opinion is absolute. They don't want to consider the facts, natural biology, or science itself. Instead, they want to be driven by their feelings, and humanity cannot afford to be controlled by emotions alone.
This woke mind virus, how did it start? Was it bats? Was it a escape from a lab? I mean, what is your assessment of what? Because it's fairly recent. How did it start and why?
I was trying to figure out where it's coming from. I think it's actually been a long time brewing, in that it's. I think it's been going on for a while. The amount of indoctrination that's happening in schools and universities is, I think, far beyond what parents realize.
You heard him. The woke mind virus did not develop from a laboratory or an outbreak of bats, but it's a planned agenda that has been brewing for a while.
I'm interested in your opinions too, but generally, I think we should be aiming for like a positive society, and you know, that it should be okay to, you know, be humorous, like, you know, like we should like wokeness basically wants to make comedy illegal, which is not cool.
We've experienced a little bit of that.
I mean, Chappelle, like, what? Try to shut down Chappelle? Come on, man, that's crazy. You know, so do we want a humorless society that is simply rife with condemnation and hate, basically?
And no forgiveness, right?
Yeah.
Don't we all agree that the concept of wokeness has led to a lot of sensitivity, bigoting, confusion, hatred, and condemnation amongst many people?
Do you believe that women and minority pilots are inherently less intelligent and less skilled than white male pilots?
No, I'm just saying that we should not lower the standards for them.
Okay, but there's no evidence that standards are being lowered when it comes to the airline industry.
You've repeatedly said that there's no evidence that standards are being lowered, and watch the replies showing all the evidence that it is.
If a job standard is lowered only because of minority groups and women, then what is the point of standards and merits in society? Might as well have no requirements except the color of your skin, don't you think?
You want to share what you have to say?
I'll say what I want to say, and if the consequence of that is losing money, so be it.
Okay. But I mean, when you link to somebody who's talking about the guy who killed children in a mall in Allen, Texas, and you say something like it might be a bad psyop. I'm not quite sure what you meant, but
in that particular case, there was somehow that's not that the obviously people were killed, but it was, I think, incorrectly ascribed to be a white supremacist action, and the evidence for that was some obscure Russian website that no one's ever heard of, that had no followers, and the company that found this is Bellingcat.
right,
And do you know what Bellingcat does? PsyOps.
right. I couldn't really even follow exactly what it was you were trying to express there, so that's in part why I was curious.
I'm saying that I thought the ascribing it to white supremacy was bullshit.
Okay.
In this video, Elon talks about his controversial tweet on white supremacy and communicates how important it is to trace the source of an idea before making issues about it. To put it simply, get your facts right. Does white supremacy truly exist?
A society that is simply rife with condemnation and hate, basically.
And no forgiveness, right?
Yeah. At its heart, wokeness is divisive, exclusionary, and hateful. It basically gives mean people a reason. It gives them a shield to be mean and cruel, armored in false virtue. What do you think?
I'd agree with that.
I think wokeness has enabled a lot of cruelty to oneself in society while trying to cover up as the good guy.
I mean, we have an age of consent for a reason. That the reason you can't get, say, tattoos below age 18, or drink or drive. You know, there are ages at which you can do things, because if we allow children to take permanent actions when they're 10, 12, 14 years old, they will do things that they subsequently greatly regret.
For something as life-altering as puberty blockers, shouldn't the age of consent apply to its usage as well? Think about it. A child is a child because they don't always make the smartest decisions, not because they are dumb, but because they are inexperienced, ignorant, and can be easily manipulated.
It's come to mean a lot of things.
But what originally it was meant to mean, it's just being aware of inequities in society and being aware of facts and history.
Yeah, I think it's come to be. I think being aware of inequities in society is fine, of course, but trying to blame everything trying to make everything a race issue is, I think, divisive and corrosive to society.
Even as it relates to trans issues, which is what I'm...
Yeah, race or, gender or whatever.
You think that society blames everything on racism now?
It blames a lot of things on it, and, yeah.
Just like a virus, wokeness is constantly evolving to a more dangerous form. What it started as is not what it means currently anymore. Racial inequities are important conversations to have, but they shouldn't be allowed as an excuse for everything in society.
I think being aware of inequities in society is fine, of course, but trying to blame everything trying to make everything a race issue is, I think, divisive and corrosive to society.
Even as it relates to trans issues, which is what I'm...
Yeah, race or, gender or whatever.
You think that society blames everything on racism now?
It blames a lot of things on it, and, yeah.
You think that's unfair?
Yeah.
Why?
I think we should not make this a constant subject. I think we need to move on. I think we should, treat people like people.
You don't agree that this country was founded on racism and founded on slavery and in many ways inequities? That still continue on to this day?
I think every country at that time, and I think even today, was extremely racist. Every country. And obviously, slavery was present in about half of this country, and was not present in the North. There was racism for sure, but I think we want to look to the future rather than the past.
Is slavery bad? Yes, it is. But now that it's over, why is there a need to constantly rehash the past when those who are responsible for the act are actually dead and gone?
Yes. Well, not everyone was a slave.
No, everyone was a slave.
Okay, but
we are all descended from slaves.
Yeah.
Well, all of us.
Yeah.
It's just a question of when. Was it more recent or less recent? That's it.
Right.
But what future do we want? Is this something we want to make part of our constant dialogue forever, or do we want to say, like, let's just move on and treat everyone, according to just who they are as an individual?
I don't know about you, but if we all agree to treat everyone as individuals and focus on the present, we can finally move on from the history and memories of slavery, don't you think?
I mean, do your tweets hurt the company? Are there Tesla owners who say, I don't agree with his political position and I know it because he shares so much of it? Or are there advertisers on Twitter that Linda Yaccarino will come and say, you gotta stop, man, or, I can't get these ads because of some of the things you tweet?
I'm reminded of there's a scene in The Princess Bride. Great movie.
Great movie.
Where he confronts the person who killed his father. And he says, offer me money. Offer me power. I don't care.
Guys, you're looking at America's #1 advocate of freedom of speech here. Elon will tweet what he wants whenever he wants, no matter how controversial it seems. He's brave, I'll give him that.
The reason I ask you, listen, there are a whole lot of things that people maybe have questions about when it comes to transgender people. Even people who are part of the LGBTQ plus community have questions about that. But if you are a free speech absolutist, right? And that is part of the First Amendment. Also, the freedom of expression falls under that First Amendment as well. So why can't people choose to identify with the gender that they feel comfortable with, or use a pronoun? Isn't that part of freedom of expression?
I guess no. They can ask others to do whatever they feel they can ask others to do anything. It's a different question whether they mandate that others do that thing.
That's it. You can't force people to agree with your opinion. Last I checked, expression and compulsion are two different things.
I acquired X in order to preserve freedom of speech in America, the First Amendment. And I'm going to stick to that. And if that means making less money, so be it.
Selfless much? It's official. X will allow you to express your ideologies regardless of what other people may or may not feel comfortable with.
And at some point, I don't know where you were, but you write in responding to another tweet.
Yes.
This is the actual truth. And it set off a firestorm of criticism all the way to the White House.
Right.
And then you make this trip to Israel. You have advertisers who've left the platform. People calling
the trip to Israel is independent of it wasn't some apology tour. I want to be clear. That was.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. So just take us back to the moment at which you write that.
Trip to Israel is independent of. It wasn't like in response to that at all.
Well, we'll do Israel in just a moment.
And I have no problem being hated, by the way.
I hear you.
Hate away.
Well, apparently the richest man in the world has no problem being hated because of his controversial tweet on anti-Semitism. Haters, get over it.
I think it's a real weakness to want to be liked. A real weakness. And I do not have that.
Let me ask you this then. There's a difference between saying I don't care if anyone likes me or they hate me.
Yeah.
But given your power and given what you have amassed and the importance you have, I would think you want to be trusted. I would think maybe you don't need to be liked or hated, but trusted matters. If X is going to become a financial platform where people are going to put their money, where the government's going to give you money for rockets, where people are going to get into the cars, they need to ultimately decide that you are. Maybe they don't have to decide that they love you, but that you are ultimately a decent and good human being.
Yes, I mean I think I am. But I'm certainly not going to do some sort of tap dance to prove to people that I am. So as for trust, I mean, I think we break that down in a few ways. If you want satellites sent to orbit reliably, SpaceX will do 80% of all mass to orbit this year. China will do 12%. The rest of the world will do 8%. That includes Boeing, Lockheed, and everyone else. So the track record of the rocket is the best by far of anything. You could hate my guts next. You could not trust me. It is irrelevant. The rocket track record speaks for itself. With respect to Tesla, we make the best cars. Whether you hate me, like me, or indifferent, do you want the best car or do you not want the best car?
He's gonna say whatever he wants without waiting to be liked or trusted because there is an actual record to prove his credibility. Why don't you just give him credit? He's tough and does not back down.
That says that this is the actual truth. People read that tweet.
Yes. And
they say Elon Musk is an anti-Semite. That he is riling up this base. You're hearing it from, as I said, the White House. You're hearing it from Jewish groups all over. I think Jonathan Greenblatt from the ADL is here. There's lots of people who say this. And by the way, it's not just that.
Did you read the whole thing?
I did, and that's why I want to ask you about
And the responses.
Excuse me?
I said more.
More responses?
Yeah, I said more than what you just read.
Yes. There was absolutely more.
Yes.
But I'll tell you the thing that struck me. It wasn't, and I'm an American Jew. It wasn't just the people who had that view. It was actually people who really are anti-Semites, who said, "Oh my goodness, go Elon! This is fabulous." And that actually was the thing that really set me back. I said to myself, "What's going on here?" And I want to know how you felt about that in that moment when you saw all of this happening.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I did clarify almost immediately what I meant. I would say that was, if I could go back and say I should, in retrospect, not have replied to that particular person, and I should have written in greater length as to what I meant. I did subsequently clarify it in replies. But those clarifications were ignored by the media. And essentially, I handed a loaded gun to those who hate me, and arguably to those who are anti-Semitic. for that, I'm quite sorry. That was not my intention. So I did, post on my primary timeline to be absolutely clear that I'm not anti-Semitic, and that I, in fact, if anything, am philo-Semitic. And the trip to Israel was planned before any of that happened.
Well, that settles it. Elon Musk is not an anti-Semite. It's not his first time being controversial, and his trip to Israel was not an apology tour for anyone.
What was that trip like? And obviously, you know that there's a public perception that, and you're clarifying this now, but there's a public perception that that was part of a apology tour, if you will. That this had been said online. There was all of the criticism. There was advertisers leaving. We talked to Bob Iger today.
I hope they stop.
You hope?
Don't advertise.
You don't want them to advertise?
No.
What do you mean?
If somebody's going to try to blackmail me with advertising, blackmail me with money, go f*** yourself. But go yourself. Is that clear? I hope it is. Hey, Bob, if you're in the audience.
Okay, he has guts. See how his ideology isn't dependent on the advertiser's opinion? Woke cult members, you guys could learn a thing or two from this.
This is the approach, and I ask it because you've been
What's the other approach?
Well, you've been very particular about the approach to Tesla. When you think about the engineering involved in that, the approach to SpaceX, the approach to some of the stuff you're doing with AI has been very specific, right? There's not a let the chips fall where they may approach to those businesses, I don't think.
No, we focus on making the best products. And Tesla's gotten to where it's gotten with no advertising at all.
I understand that.
Tesla currently sells twice as much in terms of electric vehicles as the rest of electric car makers in the United States combined. Tesla has done more to help the environment than all other companies combined. It would be fair to say that, therefore, as a leader of the company, I've done more for the environment than everyone else, any single human on Earth.
How do you feel about that? No,
how do I feel about that?
Yeah, no, I'm asking you personally how you feel about that, because we're talking about power and influence, and
I'm saying what I care about is the reality of goodness, not the perception of it. And what I see all over the place is people who care about looking good while doing evil. Okay?
Simply put, do something good for society and stop complaining.
But if you generically, without condition, sort of fund, if you fund persecuted groups, in general, some of those persecuted groups, unfortunately, want your annihilation. And what I meant by that, when I subsequently clarified, is that it's unwise to fund organizations that support groups that want your annihilation. Is this coming across?
So the truth is, everyone is entitled to state their own opinion, no matter how controversial it seems. Why should the richest man in the world be an exception?
No, that's literally, yeah, good phrase, in the head, Neuralink.
Well, there we go. We need to touch that before it's over.
The best interface would be a neural interface directly to your brain.
Yup, he may be controversial, but he is not an anti-Semite.
The so-called gender-affirming care, which is a terrible euphemism.
That's for sure.
It's really a child sterilization, is what it should be.
No, there's mutilation too.
Mutilation.
Yeah, well, we want to make sure that amalgam is.
Sure, fair enough.
Yeah.
It's child mutilation and sterilization.
Yeah. Under the guise of gender-affirming care and compassion.
Right.
Is hormone therapy, genital reconstruction, breast reconstruction, facial plastic surgery, speech therapy, psychiatric services, and any other gender-affirming care going to change your chromosome? I don't think so.
I mean, you have talked about this woke mind virus.
Yes.
In really apocalyptic terms.
Yeah.
You should explain why you don't think it's hyperbole to say things like it's pushing civilization towards suicide. First of all, what is the woke mind virus? And if we don't deal with this, nothing else can get done. Tell me why you think that.
Yeah, so I think we need to be very cautious about anything that is anti-meritocratic and anything that is that results in the suppression of free speech. So, those are two of the aspects of the woke mind virus that I think are very dangerous. Is that it's often anti-meritocratic. You can't question things. Even the questioning is bad. So, another way to almost synonymous would be cancel culture.
Anything that threatens the existence of the First Amendment should not be tolerated, and in this, it is wokeness, aka cancel culture.
Can't emphasize this enough. We must protect free speech, and free speech only matters. It's only relevant when it's someone you don't like saying something you don't like, because obviously speech that you like is that's easy.
It is not exactly freedom of speech if people are always saying what other people want to hear. Someone has to say the truth. We have to hear it.
You have to say, like, well, what does canceled mean? I mean, yes, if people attack you on Twitter, that's one thing, but frankly, that's just going to increase engagement. So I would just ignore it.
Okay, I heard that. Loud and clear, the best way to handle cancel culture is to tell the truth and damn the consequences.
The thing about censorship is that, sure, for those who would advocate it, just remember, at some point, that will be turned on you.
It's not sensitive, nor is it harmful. You just don't want to hear the truth, Wookiees. I mean, if you can tell me how gender is a spectrum, I should be entitled to tell you that it's not.
I'll say what I want to say, and if the consequence of that is losing money, so be it.
Okay.
Alright, Elon, say what you want to say. I may not be as rich as you, but I got brains too. And it's a wrap for now, guys. Thanks for staying till the very end. Before you leave, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share with your friends and anyone who wants to keep seeing more content like this. I'm definitely waiting for your comments, so see you.